Good afternoon, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends. I'm going to go a little off the cuff. So, if folks know me, and I know a lot of y'all know me because I'm very outgoing, I get shockingly nervous about public speaking, but then I do a really good job. Like, after people in my branch, like, this happens to me all the time. And I read long form my whole talk, and I'm going off the cuff right now because I am truly honored to be in the presence of these young revolutionaries. I am moved and I am motivated, and one of the biggest proof I can give you is this talk that I prepared without knowing what they would say, unknowingly echoes their sentiment. So without any coordination, you might hear a little bit of what we just heard again. Okay. Last year, I was given the opportunity to speak and open the Workers' World Party 2012 conference. At that opening talk I gave, I shared with you all some of my vulnerability about the feeling of failure that I had under the capitalist system. I want you to know that just a year later, I've been around the world with that, and I've never felt smarter. In preparing my remarks today on the revolutionary potential of my generation, especially Black and brown young people, I want to first ask you all, brothers and sisters, 50 years after the March on Washington, are we free? No. Living in the age of empire, language loses meaning when democracy means neoliberal capitalism, when reform means repression, and when the phrase humanitarian intervention is merely a part of the PR campaign for the next imperialist war and occupation. What is freedom after all? I vividly remember in the aftermath of 9/11, the mainstream capitalist media wound up xenophobic sentiment by repeatedly posing the question, why do they hate us? And then allow the reactionary forces to respond to that, to answer, they hate us because of our freedoms. How tragic it felt that when fear-mongering was baiting Muslims, Arabs, and third-world immigrants, white America was asking the very same question that Black and brown kindergartners ask their parents every year, why do they hate us? When people of color are pushed out of their neighborhoods into specific areas of their cities, unconstitutionally stopped and frisked at alarming rates by the NYPD, our plight does not greatly differ from the people of Gaza, stopped daily at checkpoints under the Israeli occupation of Palestine. Youth of color are either locked up in the system of mass incarceration that jails us, or locked out of higher education and good jobs. We form a new racial undercast within the United States. We are a generation under siege. Comrades and friends, to my understanding, to be free is to live a life without fear. But a life without fear is a promise we could not yet assure youth of color. For young people like Jonathan Farrell in my home state of North Carolina and Renisha McBride in Detroit, Michigan, the stories are eerily similar. Two Black youth in two different car accidents approach nearby homes for help, for assistance in their moments of vulnerability, and had their lives cut tragically short when their Blackness held them seemingly complicit in the white supremacist mentality that they were guilty, that they were dangerous, and a threat until proven otherwise. Jonathan was killed by police officers in a misguided attempt to guard private property, while Renisha was shot in a manner similar to the murder of Trayvon Martin by white men who saw her as a threat. For it wasn't just the pain and anger at the acquittal of George Zimmerman that sent my generation to the streets. It was our pain and our anger that was coupled by a refusal to accept that somehow 17-year-old unarmed Trayvon Martin was found fatally guilty by a society that criminalized his very existence. The desire to live a life without fear is the very hope that capitalism extinguishes for undocumented youth. Countless young people have suffered extreme mental and emotional consequences of a life lived in the shadows. Policies like secure communities terrorize our neighborhoods, while we are told that border militarization is the price we must pay for when seeking immigration reform. So again, I ask you, brothers and sisters, are we free? No. Young revolutionaries before me, like Huey Newton of the Black Panther Party, that's what I'm talking about. A little bit of synchronicity, right? You know? these very same questions in previous generations. Huey taught us that modern capitalism takes away our sense of community, of togetherness, of shared purpose. It promotes individualism and fear. And when Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech 50 years ago, he too reminded the crowd it had been 100 years since the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed, but the colored man was not yet free. Us rebels and activists are quick to remind folks of the other profound words of Dr. King on capitalism, on war, on poverty. But when Dr. King spoke his now iconic words, I have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. It sparks something in the imagination of generations to come. Young people across the nation continue to rally around the promise of a dream. From the Dream Act and United We Dream, to the undocumented youth known as the Dreamers, to the Dream Defenders occupying the Florida State Capitol for Trayvon's Law. We are the products of a generation that had a dream. We are the products of a dream deferred. We are the sons and daughters of farm workers and slaves, dedicated to repainting the canvas of history with the same brushes given to us by Malcolm, by Huey, by Gloria, by Asada, by Cesar, by Sam Marcy, and Dottie Ballard. This youth are a growing coalition of youth and students committed to replacing jails with schools, ending the illegal war on the undocumented, dismantling the systems that criminalize our people, and fighting for self-determination in our communities. We hear your whispered questions. Where are the youth? We know a revolution cannot be retweeted or reposted, and we assure you all, even when you may have begun to lose hope, there is a new generation of organizers, marchers, fighters, activists, lovers, and dreamers arriving, and we are ready. We are a generation forgotten by trade unions from Bangladesh to Baltimore. We take to the streets to demand a living wage. You may doubt our discipline, but just watch as we steady our hands to take up the torch. We are ready. When butterfly wings and valuation law blows, we will march against injustice, and we will win the fight